Today I want to talk about why I've replaced my cell phone with a rotary phone, what specific tool I'm using to get that done, and why I would even want to use a landline type device here in 2025. But first, if you don't know me, I'm Spencer, and I like to talk about simple living, frugality, and digital minimalism. Today I want to talk to you guys about a really cool device called the S22 Jack. It's a tool that allows me to pair my smartphone into an old landline phone like this and use it through my cell phone's plan. Not only does this allow me to resurrect really cool old devices like this, but it also has a digital minimalism element to it too and helps me disconnect from the smart world. One of my first videos that I did a little bit over a year ago was a review of this device right here. And if you want to see that, which has a little bit more technical aspects to it, I'll link that above. But after over a year of using this device, I want to talk a bit more about my experience in that time, whether I'd recommend it, and if it's something to consider using a rotary phone like this for digital minimalism in 2025. Starting off, let me tell you a bit about how this little guy works. So to my understanding, the S22 Jack is a Bluetooth receiver. You hook your landline device up to this, you plug this thing in and power it, and then you can connect your cell phone to it like any other Bluetooth device. It's a very simple setup process. It really is pretty much plug and play, and very quickly you can make and receive calls through your landline phone. Now I'm going to be using the term landline to discuss these types of phones, but unfortunately landline kind of means that it's connected to a landline. It is a phone that really isn't involving the internet in its process. Unfortunately, I don't even think you can get a true landline phone here in Canada. At least if you can, it's very hard to come by, and getting a dedicated line is quite expensive. I know because my landlord upstairs has always had a landline phone. She doesn't have internet and she never has, it doesn't want to, but recently the phone company had to come and switch her service over to a voice over internet service. So her standard landline phone setup was swapped out for a modem which connected to the phone itself. This is something that's happening all around Canada, and I suspect around the world as well, and it makes a good case for using something like the S22 Jack, because if you're already paying for a landline service that's giving you a voice over internet service, you might as well just pair your cell phone to it and use it that way. And that line of thinking is pretty much what got me to pick up the S22 Jack just over a year ago, and I've enjoyed it a lot in the time that I've had it. This is a very simple device to set up. It's a very small device. It has 3 ports on this one side. One port is to plug in your actual phone's line. One port is a micro USB for power, and then the third port is a USB-A out, which allows you to power your phone if you want to sit your cell phone on this device and let it charge while you use your cell phone service to run this phone. Once you plug the S22 Jack into the wall, connect your phone to it and do all of that, you should be able to start scanning for Bluetooth devices on your cell phone, and it will come up. If the S22 Jack doesn't appear on your smartphone's list of Bluetooth devices that are available, you can enter manual pairing mode. If your landline phone has a normal dial pad on it, you hit pound star pound and it enters that manual pairing mode and should show up on your smartphone. However, if you have a rotary phone like mine, it doesn't have the pound or the star key, but you want to go into the manual pairing mode, just dial 0000. So literally after plugging this device in, searching for it in your phone's Bluetooth menu, and maybe entering manual pairing mode on your landline phone, you should be connected and off to the races. If you want to make any settings adjustments for the S22 Jack, like for example, when I got this, I found that the sound coming through the rotary phone was a little bit quiet. All you have to do is connect via that micro USB port to your computer. You can download the S22 Jack app and you can make all those adjustments there. The cool thing about this device is it actually allows you to use the rotary phone like a rotary phone. You can do the dialing like this. And it actually dials through your cell phone. Same thing with receiving calls. If your cell phone gets a call while it's connected to the S22 Jack, it will actually ring through the rotary phone's ringer, and it sounds great. I found that the Bluetooth signal on here has also been quite strong. The call quality that I've had when I've been making calls through this phone have sounded just as good as doing it through my iPhone. Overall, for the past year and a bit that I've had the S22 Jack, I've really enjoyed it. It's a very interesting little device. It's great that it's allowed me to use a rotary phone like this here in 2025. The S22 Jack is also not very expensive. If you want to try something like this out, in the States, it only sells for 35 bucks. Here in Canada, I had to pay a little bit more. I think I paid 60 bucks for it, but I've been very happy with it even at that price. It has served me very well for the year and a bit that I've had it. Now I want to talk a little bit about the why and the who, I guess. Why did I choose to pick up a S22 Jack to use a rotary phone in 2025, and who is this really for? As far as why I chose this, it was two different reasons actually. Partially, I like historical things. I'm an antique guy. I love collecting and going to flea markets and doing things like that. And I always loved these rotary phones and I wanted to use one. The second part is that over the last few years, I noticed that people were becoming more and more constantly connected with their devices. You know, people carry their cell phone with them everywhere. All throughout the house, they have that device on them at all times, at least people in my age group and younger. With that comes a lot of a low-level stress that just anxiety, I think, that comes from being constantly connected. So starting a couple years ago, I began to investigate ways to break away from that. And one of the things that I had looked into was just getting landline service, having a dedicated phone that I was going to be able to be called on and I could just put my cell phone away when I got home. But unfortunately, as I said, landline service is really expensive. It was actually going to be more expensive than my cell phone plan just to get a landline plan. But that's where the Cell 2 jack came in, and it was really the best of both worlds. It enabled me to use a vintage phone like this, a really cool piece of history that I think looks really cool as well, and it allowed me to get a little bit more space from my smart device. I talked about this in the last video where I talked about the Cell 2 jack last year, but one of my dreams is getting a Bell phone booth, a Canada Bell phone booth, and hooking it up to a Cell 2 jack somehow so that when I want to make a phone call, I have to actually leave the house and go in the phone booth out in the yard and make the call. And who's to say, one day in the future, I just might do that. But seriously, the possibilities with this thing are endless. You can hook it up to pretty much any landline phone and it's gonna be great for you. If you're interested in digital minimalism and you wanna get a little bit of distance between you and your smartphone, this might also be a great option for you. One of the big appeals for me for the Cell 2 jack was the fact that this thing automatically paired to my smartphone whenever I walked into the house. So I knew that I could have my phone when I was out and about on the town or at work or something like that. But when I came back in the door, I could put this away and I could disconnect from it, but if I was going to get a call, I could be still reached and I would hear it through the Cell 2 jack and the rotary phone. The ring from my rotary phone is pretty distinct, and no matter where you are in the house, you're gonna hear it. So having a device like this allows me to put my phone away when I get home. I can leave it on charge and I can check it occasionally to see if I get a text, but I don't need to have it on me at all times out of fear that I might miss a call. Now, of course, you can just turn the ringer up on your cell phone, leave your cell phone on charge and not buy anything. You could be reached when this thing rings out super loud, and I'm sure you can even get a rotary phone ringtone on this if you wanted to. But if you're like me and you like history and you like retro technology, you can put these two things together, the history and the digital minimalism, and you can get the Cell 2 jack. You know, picking up the Cell 2 jack was one of those big first steps that I took in breaking up with my smartphone, so to say, or at least putting a boundary between me and that device, that I wasn't going to be always on it all the time, and I'm glad that I did. Lastly, I think a device like the Cell 2 jack also has a place in 2025 if you wanted to buy it for an older relative. For example, with my landlord upstairs, she doesn't want a cell phone. She doesn't want all of this stuff in here. She just wants a phone that does calling, not even texting, just calling. But as I said, because landline phone plans are becoming so few and far between, you can get a simple cell phone, get a simple calling plan as well, pair it to a device like the Cell 2 jack, and then they can have an older device that they're used to dealing with. So all in all, folks, I think the Cell 2 jack is great. If you're interested in digital minimalism or retro technology, you got 35 bucks kicking around and you want to mess around with a rotary phone like this, give the Cell 2 jack a try. I don't think you're going to regret it. If you have any more questions about the Cell 2 jack, or you just want to let me know what you think about using a landline phone here in 2025, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. If you want to pick up a Cell 2 jack, I have links for that in the description and you can check it out there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.